Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Sri Radhe. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Sri Radhe. Go Premanandi. So welcome to our Saturday night session. We're going to continue with Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 3. Shall we have a bit of current events before we start? Just to keep us in touch with the realities of material existence? Let's see. This is from one of the most famous surveys in the USA, Pew Research Center, famous for their accuracy. So you'd be interested to know that nearly 80 years after the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan in World War II, 35% of Americans say the action was justified, and 31% say it was not justified. Another 33% are unsure. So in case you don't know, those two infantile, rudimentary atomic bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki killed minimum 200,000 persons. Not all at once, but due to radiation and other ailments. But who knows the world's record for extinguishing the greatest amount of human beings in one night? Who holds that record? Balaram Baba, do you know? Take a stab at it.
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a safe bet. Exactly, the firebombing of Tokyo. 100,000 women, children, and men, all civilians, wiped out in the course of one night. The bombing runs were practiced in the desert in the USA. They constructed paper houses of the same consistency as the typical Japanese houses in Tokyo. And they calculated the wind. They started a firestorm on purpose. They had rehearsed it. The wind blows this way, the flames will increase. The flames were so hot that the streets were melting. The asphalt was running like a river. And the poor people, they thought if we take shelter in the municipal swimming pools, the huge municipal swimming pools, we'll be safe. And you can understand what happened. The heat was so great they were just cooked alive in the swimming pools. 1,000 persons crowded into a swimming pool thinking we'll be safe from the fire. And the heat was so intense, they just cooked. So 100,000 civilians gone in one night. That's the world's record. So what else can we tell you about transcendental current events before we get into Chaitanya Charitamrita? I lost my place. It was a good one, and I lost my place. All right, anyway, another reality check. In the year 2024, more than $100 billion was spent by the 9 nuclear-armed countries on their nuclear arsenals. That's last year. 100 billion in 1 year spent on the nuclear arsenal. And the U.S. spent more than the other 8 nuclear powers combined. All helping so that people can live longer. So the United States, once again, topped the charts as the biggest spender at almost $57 billion in 1 year out of $100 billion worldwide. China spent $12 billion, and the UK spent $10 billion. All glories to human progress. So let's see if I can Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'm really irritated today. All right, we'll have to go right to Vrindavan Dham. I wanted to read you something from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur about impersonalism and how by getting rid of the personality of Godhead, you leave yourself in the prime position as the controller, enjoyer, and proprietor. It's covered atheism if we say Madhupan Lila has no personality, no arms, no legs, no eyes. That's as good as saying she doesn't exist. So that's what impersonalism does. And this is why Lord Chaitanya was so vigorous in opposition to Mayavadis. Mayavadi means Vad. The truth is Maya. Everything about the world is illusion. So You get rid of the personality of Krishna as the enjoyer, controller, with form, qualities, activities, and that leaves you with your activities, your material affairs. Having said that, let's go to Vrindavan. First of all, from the viewpoint of the residents of Hastinapur. Who knows who's a prime resident of Hastinapur? Parmeshwar, you haven't read first canto? Aren't you translating that? What chapter are you on? Chapter 1, all right. Huh? The Pandavas and Kunti Devi. So this is Srila Prabhupada talking about a high level of bhakti, the level of spontaneous attraction, raga bhakti. So keep that in mind, because you think that what you're going to hear is contradictory to what you would normally think, especially in the practice stage of bhakti. So let's hear. Just like Kunti Devi is not an inhabitant of Vrindavan. She is an inhabitant of Hastinapur, outside Vrindavan. These outside devotees, the devotees who are outside Vrindavan, they are studying the inhabitants of Vrindavan, how great they are. But the inhabitants of Vrindavan don't care to know how great Krishna is. That is the difference. So our business is simply to love Krishna. The more you love Krishna, the more you become perfect. It is not that it is necessary to understand Krishna, how he has created. These things are mentioned here in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is explaining himself in the Bhagavad Gita so much. Don't bother very much to know Krishna. That is not possible. Simply increase your unalloyed love for Krishna. That is the perfection of life. Thank you very much. So what is this? Don't bother trying to understand Krishna? Don't bother trying to know Krishna? You see, when Prabhupada speaks and when he writes his Bhaktivedanta purports, he's like a pianist playing all the keys of the piano from the bottom to the top. That's why he said his books have something in them for every level of spiritual advancement. For the neophyte devotee and for the most advanced devotees. It's all there in his purports. So he's the master of the one-room schoolhouse teacher. Any of you go to a one-room schoolhouse with more than one grade in the classroom? No? Only me? You did? In Tennessee?
Yeah, 3 grades in the classroom.
Yes, also. I went to Lutheran school for 3 years, and there were 3 grades in one classroom, and the teacher was very expert to keep everyone moving along according to their pace. So the Bhaktivedanta purports are like that. They've got something in them for the neophytes, and of course, what's for the neophytes is not harmful for the mature devotees to hear. Hearing again and again, finally the subject matter sinks into your consciousness. And there's nourishment for the most advanced devotees. So we've heard, like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the more you understand him, the more you can engage in devotional service with determination. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami himself says, Siddhanta Bolia Chitte, not Kauravalas. Don't be lazy, not Kauravalas. Study the Siddhanta, the conclusions of the bhakti science. And in that way, your intelligence becomes strengthened. But now you hear, don't try to understand Krishna. Just try to love Krishna. The Brijbasis, they don't care to know how great is Krishna. Just like the cowherd boys. When they see Krishna and Balaram do something abnormal, extraordinary, inconceivable, they don't think this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They think, well, our friends, our little friends, Krishna and Balaram, have extraordinary powers. And you know what that means? Who knows?
We do too.
Yeah, we're all mates, we're all friends. If they're powerful, if they're devatas, demigods, we are too. So even though they see Krishna's powers, they never think Krishna's Supreme Personality God. If Krishna doesn't want them to think that way. Whenever they see Balaram do something amazing, they just assume. They think about what Garga Rishi said. Who knows what Garga Rishi said at the Namakarana ceremony, the name-giving ceremony of Krishna? The cowherd people of Vrindavan take it that Garga Rishi said, Narayan will empower these boys, especially Krishna. Narayan will inhabit him, come inside, and empower him from his inside. But God? No. So this extract from a lecture is Prabhupada speaking about Rag Bhakti, the relishing stage of devotional service. We explained the other day, I believe. There's the therapeutic stage where you perform sadhana bhakti because the doctor says, here's the medical prescription, you take it if you want to get well. And what's the point in arguing with the doctor if you want to get well? You rise early in the morning, you attend Mangal Arati, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, you chant your minimum 16 rounds. So you do that because the doctor says, this is the medicine, you take it. You want to get well. But that's not the only bhakti experience. By duly executing the therapeutic stage of bhakti, gradually, and you can't hold a timetable to Krishna, gradually you start feeling spontaneous attraction for Krishna, his service, his glories, his name. You can't artificially hasten that transition. Like the old saying goes, you can't hurry love, you just have to wait. And Prabhupada would give the old-fashioned example about a woman who marries and instantly she wants a child. Definitely an old-fashioned example. Not comparable for today's economy. You can laugh, you have that luxury. We pray that you will always have that luxury in order to laugh at such things. As I often explain, all ashrams, all 4 ashrams are meant for what? Spiritual progress. What's the difference? Yes. 2 of the ashrams are much cheaper than the others. Remember that. I won't ask Dasha Prem if you're low maintenance. They generally start out that way. All right, back to the text. So, Prabhupada is talking about the residents of Hastinapur. They're like residents of Dwarka. When looked at from the Vrindavan perspective, the outside devotees are considered, indeed, outsiders in terms of the intimacy of Krishna Lila, Krishna's pastimes. So these outside devotees are studying the inside devotees. How great they are. These residents of Vrindavan, cowherd boys playing with Krishna, the gopis attracted to Krishna, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda thinking Krishna is their son. So these Hastinapur Vasis and Dwarka Vasis also are thinking, how great are the inhabitants of Vrindavan? What are the inhabitants of Vrindavan? What are they thinking? They don't care to know how great is Krishna. They just want to dance with him, play with him, feed him. So again, Prabhupada says that is the difference between the Hastinapur, and you could also say the Dwarkaites, and the Vrindavan Vasis, the residents of Vrindavan. Therefore, so our business is simply to love Krishna. The more you love Krishna, the more you become perfect. Now the question is, how do you love Krishna? Do you just climb on the altar up to Damodar and give a big hug? No, the whole process of bhakti is about how to love Krishna. And love is developed through phases and stages. So that's what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is all about. How you can swim in the Sindhu, the ocean of Bhakti Rasa, the nectarian rasas of Bhakti. And of course, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is summarized in Nectar of Devotion. But bear in mind, when the Nectar of Devotion was edited, I think I've explained, did I? Devotees were practically just of 2 years' stature. They've been around for 2 years. And here they are dealing with Rupa Goswami's description of the ecstasies and symptoms of pure love of Krishna. They did the best they could. It's a miracle of Srila Prabhupada that he pulled that off. Being able to put out such a book with such unknowing editors and staff. It was published in 1970. And remember, Prabhupada's first disciples were from 1966. So therefore, in the BBT publication of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we've clarified a lot of the terminology, made it very clear, with heaps of explanatory notes. So as we explained the other day, this rendition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu will be 5 volumes of 700 pages each, all explaining how to develop love for Krishna, the various phases, how to go from sadhana bhakti to rag bhakti, what are the qualifications, what are the characteristics, and then all the ecstasies like we heard about yesterday, harsha, jubilation, garva, pride. How is all that emotional variety present on the spiritual platform? I really feel inclined to look for this. If you give me a minute to find this quote by Bhaktisiddhanta about impersonalism. I'm not going to be able to find it. It's disappeared on me. All right, I give up. Next time. So let's go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. No loss. So where do we leave off yesterday? Who remembers?
Lord was dancing in Advaitacharya's house, and Prabhupada was encouraging him with so many verses, augmenting his mood.
Yes, switching the mood from separation to meeting with Krishna. And what about fatigue? The devotees, seeing how fatigued Lord Chaitanya was becoming, and how can the spiritual form of Mahaprabhu become fatigued? But this is Lila. He's demonstrating a devotee in the topmost stages of love of Krishna. So we ended up hearing that although the Lord was fatigued, Nityananda Prabhu kept him steady by holding him, because he kept collapsing on the ground in ecstasy. At that time, Advaita Acharya suspended the chanting, and by rendering various services to the Lord, made Lord Chaitanya lie down to take rest. So for 10 continuous days, Advaita Acharya held feasting and chanting in the evening. He served the Lord in this way without any change. What do you think? Could you hold out for 10 days of chanting and feasting? What is your quota? One night and that's enough. Huh? Enough chanting and dancing and talking about Krishna. Let's get back to the real world, right? That's why it's wonderful to hear about these devotees in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Chaitanya Lila. They're showing you what the standard is. How to have Krishna's presence even in the material world. So Advaita Acharya is showing you what to do when you got a house. Invite all the devotees, chant and feast for 10 continuous days. We have a festival for 3 days. We think, ooh, huge achievement. Now, what comes next? Who remembers? Sachi Mata is going to arrive. And this is going to be an extraordinarily emotional situation. Lord Chaitanya is leaving home to take sannyas, is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Heart-rending. He was 24. His mother was a widow. Jagannath Mishra had departed from the presence of this world. So his mother was a widow. He had a young wife. The affection at home could not be calculated. Such an affectionate home. But he left it. Sachi Devi had already lost one son, Vishvarup. He left home and took sannyas. And his mother had pleaded with Nimai, Lord Chaitanya's childhood name, don't do to me what Vishvarup did. But he did, showing that for the higher purpose, for engagement in Krishna service, one has to do the necessary. So keep in mind whatever you know about Lord Chaitanya's departure from home to take sannyas. His mother knew he was going. You can just imagine to have a son like Nimai, who is Krishna himself, how attracted and how attached the mother would be. What to speak of his wife. But these are not material relationships. But still, it's Lila. These are pastimes with real emotions, although all the emotions are spiritual. In fact, because they're spiritual, the emotions are real. Now, Sachi Devi is going to arrive at the house of Advaita Acharya and see her son, Nimai, for the first time since he took sannyas. She's going to come by palanquin. Everyone knows what a palanquin is?
No.
It's like a portable throne hoisted upon the shoulders of palanquin bearers. And it's like a chair on poles, like people carry a casket at a funeral. So they hoist the chair on their shoulders. It has poles from each end. And it has curtains, so you can't see who's inside in the case of a lady, because that was the primitive, prehistoric, dinosaur age etiquette back then. That a respectable lady was very careful about going out into the public. She was not a feast for the eyes of onlookers. So Prabhupada describes cultural life in Bengal at the turn of the 20th century, when his mother wanted to go across the street to visit a neighboring lady. She called for a palanquin. She wouldn't go out in the street alone. She called for a palanquin, and with the curtains drawn, so you couldn't see who's inside, just across the street to visit her neighbor lady across the street, because that was respectability. Sounds really crazy, doesn't it? Nowadays, the more you expose yourself, the more famous you are. I was giving a class in Noida, neighboring city of Delhi, and just to show you how India is starting to change so much. So one 32-year-old lady challenged me. Why? I notice in this temple the ladies are covered up. Why? She said, let me explain to you. Just like men have muscles and they get their way by having that physical strength, similarly the ladies have their own ways of getting what they want. So why should they not flash their wares and get what they want? I couldn't believe it. Am I speaking in India or what's going on? It's just the same as men building their muscles. The men build their muscles, the ladies show their form, and that way everyone gets what they want. So anyway, the point was Mother Sachi coming in a palanquin. That's considered standard respectability. Not only did Sachi Devi come, but all the people of Madhya, women, boys, old men, came. The crowd is increasing and increasing. So in the morning, Lord Chaitanya is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and he sees the people accompanying Sachi Mata to the house of Advaita Acharya. What happens as soon as Mahaprabhu sees his mother? He falls down before her like a stick. Remember, we said last night, what's Lord Chaitanya's, one of his many names, like Nimai and Vishvambara. What's another name we mentioned last night? Matri Bhakta, the best devotee of the mother. So Mahaprabhu falls before her like a stick, and what does Mother Sachi do? She begins to cry. And she takes Lord Chaitanya on her lap. He's a sannyasi. But this situation is just beyond the rigors of ordinary social protocol. She takes him on her lap, crying. Upon seeing each other, they both become overwhelmed. And then what? She's seeing his head with no hair. He had such beautiful hair. It's all gone now. She becomes greatly agitated. mothers like to see their sons looking like they were just born from their womb. I have to visit my mother next week and other relatives for 2 days. And so last time I was there, my mother came up to me, "That little tuft you have on the back of your head, can I cut it off?" I want you a certain way. I want you to look a certain way, like when you were little. And then for the umpteenth time, she'll start saying, "I remember when I used to cradle you in my arms, and you were just a little baby." What am I supposed to say? "Come on, Mom, get over it." You can't do that. You just got to, that's part of motherly life, She's 96 and still going on like that. Still praying to the Lord that some church lady will have me. I know ladies at my church, they're on their knees praying for you, to have you. I told her, tell them to stay on their knees praying. It's not going to happen. Motherhood. Everyone has a mother. So Sachi, seeing him without hair, is agitated because his hair was so beautiful. And then what? It gets even more intense. Out of love, she begins to caress the body of Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes she kissed his face and tried to observe him carefully, but because her eyes were filled with tears, she could not see his face clearly. What a scene. He's 24 from the material point of view, and she's taken him on her lap. She can't get over her maternal feelings. She's caressing his body, kissing his face, eyes filled with tears. Now the truth hits her. She knew, but hearing is one thing, conjecturing is one thing, and seeing the result is another. He has taken sannyas. Understanding that Lord Chaitanya had accepted the renounced order of life, Sachi Mata, crying, said to the Lord, "My darling Nimai, my darling Nimai, don't be cruel like Vishvarup, your elder brother." What a scene. She continues, "After accepting the renounced order, Vishvarup never again gave me audience. If you do like him, that will certainly be the death of me." This is more intense than any Shakespearean drama. This is for real. These are the flavors of the spiritual world. And of course, you all know, in Krishna Lila, who is Sachi Mata? Yes. What is Lord Chaitanya's reply? I actually, many years ago, wrote this same reply verbatim to my mother. The Lord replied, "My dear mother, please hear. This body belongs to you. I do not possess anything. This body was raised by you, and it comes from you. I cannot repay this debt even in millions of births. Knowingly or unknowingly, I have accepted this renounced order. Still, I shall never be indifferent to you. My dear mother, wherever you ask me to stay, I shall stay, and whatever you order, I shall execute." I didn't write my mother that last line. But all the preceding statements I wrote her. Straight out of Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can't believe the effect. It was like the greatest symphony to her ears. I'll repeat again, my dear mother, please hear. This body belongs to you. I do not possess anything. This body was raised by you, and it comes from you. I cannot repay this debt even in millions of births. Of course, my mother's Christian, so the kind of Christian that doesn't accept reincarnation. But anyway, she got the point. Knowingly or unknowingly, I have accepted this renounced order. Still, I shall never be indifferent to you. The only thing my mother knows about anything Vedic or Bhakti is that the oldest son is supposed to take care of the mother. It's the only thing she knows. Nothing about Krishna, nothing about Bhakti, nothing about Bhagavad Gita. The oldest son is supposed to take care of mother. She has other children living right around her. They're doctors, they're top-level nurses, they're dentists. She's got all that right. Physical therapists, lecturers, all in 10-minute drive. So she's well taken care of. So as I said, I didn't give her the last line. My dear mother, wherever you ask me to stay, I shall stay, and whatever you order, I shall execute. If I said that, I know what she'd say. She told me a few years ago, you know, I never told you this, son, but your grandmother, before she departed, she left a special fund for you for when you come home. Think about it. So that's why I can't say, whatever you order, I shall execute. Because she's got those church ladies on their knees praying. You know those Michigan church ladies, John Bhavati? You gotta watch out for them. So what is Lord Chaitanya's response? Saying this, the Lord offered obeisances to his mother again and again. And Mother Sachi, being pleased, took him again and again on her lap. What a scene. I remember he's 24. He's dressed as a sannyasi. But this is intense raga bhakti. You can see the parallels now between Gaura Lila and Krishna Lila. Just as Mother Yashoda feels for Krishna, Sachi Devi is feeling for Nimai, who is now a sannyasi. Then Advaitacharya took Mother Sachi within the house. The Lord was immediately ready to meet all the devotees. I love this description of how Lord Chaitanya greets all the devotees. So personal, it's kind of scary. The Lord met all the devotees one after the other, and looking at everyone's face individually, he embraced them tightly. That's real Sangha. Try it. Embrace a devotee and staring in their face. Although the devotees were unhappy at not seeing the Lord's hair, they nonetheless derived great happiness from seeing his beauty. I wonder if you're wondering, what's the big thing about hair? But this is the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His hair is spiritual. It's beauty. Just like the gopis say about Krishna. They say that just the radiance from his toenails is worth millions of their lives. So look at your toenails and what do you see? just the radiance from his toenails is more valuable than millions of our lives. Could you ever say that to someone? But they're getting great happiness by seeing his beauty, even though they are lamenting about his loss of hair. So what kind of devotees are we talking about who are there? Srivas, Ramai, Vijayanidhi, Gadadhar, Gangadas, Vakreshwar. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita over and over again, you'll become familiar with these personalities. Shuklambar, Buddhimantakan, Nandana, Sridhar, Vijay, Vasudeva, Damodara, Mukunda, Sanjaya, and all the others, however many I can mention. Indeed, all the inhabitants of Navadvip arrived there, and the Lord met them with smiles and glances of mercy. How can Lord Chaitanya handle greeting so many persons? But how could Krishna dance with billions of gopis? How can Krishna have 16,108 palaces for 16,108 wives? So all the inhabitants of Navadvip arrived, and the Lord met them with smiles and glances of mercy. Everyone was chanting the holy names of Hari,
Hari!
And dancing. In this way, the home of Advaita Acharya was converted into Sri Vaikuntapuri. That's the power of bhakti. That's the power of chanting Krishna's glories. Who talks about that in their song? Acharya of the recent age. Who knows? Who said that? Yes, what song? Well, good you knew it's by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu, Bhajana Anukula. He describes that he's offering in his house, he's offering arti to his home deities, and he sees his whole house turn into the spiritual world, Goloka. He's showing you the peak potential of bhakti, what is possible. He's a householder. He worked a job. He had 12 or 13 children. But he's showing you the peak potential. So you can't just flick that off. Oh, anyway, that's bhakti vinod. It has no relevance for us. It has a lot of relevance. People came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from various other villages nearby, as well as Navadvip. What a crowd. Now listen to this. To everyone who came to see the Lord from villages nearby, especially from Navadvip, Advaita Acharya gave residential quarters as well as all kinds of eatables for many days. Indeed, he properly adjusted everything. This reminds me of the Ukraine festivals we used to have before the war started. They, under the direction of His Holiness Niranjan Maharaj, they would have a festival fee when they started this festival. I remember 2,000, 3,000 devotees would come. We thought that was a big number. Then, due to donors, the policy was made that there's no festival fee. You give what you feel you can give. The festivals increased to 13,000 devotees from Russia and Ukraine, all chanting and dancing together. Everyone was drowning in their level of ecstasy. And of course, the merchants in the surrounding areas were delighted. They'd never seen such. 13,000 Ukrainians and Russians chanting and dancing together. And so donors had supplied huge stocks of food. Everyone, not only was there no festival fee, but no fee for the prasad. So the festival fed 13,000 devotees for free. And those who were wealthy, they made contributions to make it all possible. The only thing the devotees had to pay for was their accommodation. They arranged accommodation according to their capacity, financial capacity. Renting rooms in people's houses, renting whole guest houses. So now we're hearing about Advaita Acharya's hospitality. The supplies of Advaita Acharya were inexhaustible and indestructible. As many goods and commodities as he used, just as many again appeared. Why should you be surprised that this is what Advaita Acharya can do? Generally speaking, he's Mahavishnu, breathing out countless universes from the pores of his body. From the day Sachi Mata arrived at the house of Advaita Acharya, she took charge of the cooking. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dined in the company of all the devotees. So who knows the 4 places that Lord Chaitanya would manifest a presence. Don't even know one? Wherever Nityananda danced, Lord Chaitanya would manifest a presence. Number 2. No. Yes, when she's offering food to her deity. Number 3. No. Srivas Thakur's house, his kirtans in his house. Often Advaita Acharya was there. And number 4. Huh? No. The kitchen of Raghava Pandit. So Sachi Mata has now entered the kitchen at Advaita Acharya's house and taken charge of the cooking. All the people who came there during the day saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the friendly behavior of Advaita Acharya. At night, they had the opportunity to see the Lord's dancing and hear his chanting. Oh, to have the opportunity to hear Lord Chaitanya's chanting. It's worth a lifetime of devotional service. When the Lord performed kirtan, he manifested all kinds of transcendental symptoms. Here we go again with the ecstatic symptoms, which I hope gradually you're becoming sensitized toward. He appeared stunned and trembling. His hair stood on end and his voice faltered. There were tears and devastation. So in the purport, as before, when we heard a list of ecstatic symptoms, Prabhupada refers to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says, devastation is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a combination of happiness and distress that becomes conspicuous by an absence of any sense of them. He's giving you just a very brief capsule definition. That's why you need the whole of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to grasp the depths of this. In this condition, a devotee falls to the ground, and the subsequent symptoms in the body ensue. These symptoms are mentioned above, and when they become prominent in the body, a state called pralaya, devastation, is manifest. So as I've said several times, the more you hear about these ecstatic states and terminology, the more you become attracted to them. At first it sounds like Greek to you, doesn't it? but gradually your spiritual senses start to connect with such descriptions. Frequently, the Lord would tumble to the ground. Now, Mother Sachi is there. What do you think she's thinking, seeing her son collapse on the ground? Seeing this, she begins to cry. She thought that the body of Nimai was being smashed when he fell down. So she cried, "Alas!" and petitioned Lord Vishnu. She's showing you the perfection of motherhood. She's pleading to Vishnu, "My dear Lord, kindly bestow this benediction as a result of whatever service I've rendered unto you from my childhood." She's praying to Vishnu to protect Vishnu. She doesn't know her son is Vishnu. So she's saying, if I have done any kind of seva, any kind of pious activities since my childhood, please give me this benediction. What do you think she's going to ask for? What would any mother do in that situation? What to speak of Sachi Devi? I don't want my son to feel any pain. She says, whenever Nimai, this is the benediction she wants from Vishnu, whenever Nimai falls to the surface of the earth, please do not let him feel any pain. And then she becomes transformed with various ecstatic symptoms. So we hear that when Mother Sachi was thus overwhelmed in maternal love for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, she became transformed with happiness, fear, and humility, as well as bodily symptoms. So in the purport, Prabhupada reminds you that all the associates of Lord Chaitanya are Nitya Siddhas, eternally perfect. And he quotes Narottam Das Thakur, who sings, Gauranger Sangi Gane Nitya Siddha Korimane. Every devotee should know that all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his family members, friends, and other associates were all Nitya Siddhas. A Nitya Siddha never forgets the service of the Lord. He is always engaged, even from childhood, in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I think we'll stop there because next time we'll have a go at Sunday night, tomorrow night. You're going to hear about a cooking controversy in which everyone wants to invite Lord Chaitanya. Everyone wants to cook for him. They want to have a go at cooking for him. And Mother Sachi is going to assert herself. She wants to be the only cook. This is all motherhood stuff. I remember one time I agreed to let my mother cook for me. She said, I'm just going to make some greens. That's all. Okay, I thought no grains, no onions. So she cooked some greens. She doesn't know that nothing compares to Chuta Devi's greens. Anyway, she's mother. I can't tell her. I got someone at Gita Nagari who can outdo you. Can't say that. Yes, mother, you want to make some greens? All right. This is the first time in 20 years I relented to have her make something other than a salad. So she presented the greens to me. I had to do a quick mental offering. Yeah, it's family, relative scene, you know. I can't just Namo Vishnu Vidai. Did a quick offering in my mind. Took one bite. What I said, what'd you put in these greens? I told you, don't put anything in. Well, I just thought A little garlic would do no harm. My stomach was burning because if you haven't eaten garlic for 50 years or more, your stomach's not used to it. So there I was, feeling like I swallowed a flame of fire. And I said, "What did you do that for?" I asked her. "But it's motherly love." But she said, "I just knew that the little garlic would make it better for you, dear." These things only mothers can understand. So tomorrow we'll hear about how Lord Chaitanya resolves this dispute. Not a dispute, just a loving difference of opinion. Who should cook for Lord Chaitanya while he's at the house of Advaita Acharya? All right, any questions? If Dhruva was here, I would ask him, does he go through these adventures or incidents with his mother? You have to surrender, huh? She's not answering. Yes.
Good. Thank you so much for telling us about Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies that he's experiencing with his devotees. Without hearing from you, I think I couldn't possibly be qualified to understand any of it. Let's ask perhaps a silly question, forgive me. But we heard
Silly question?
We heard some description of the devotees dancing in the house of Advaita Acharya. Caused me to wonder, is it better, more pleasing to the Lord if devotees dance in synchronization or not?
What do you mean by synchronization?
I'm sure you've seen even more than me. Sometimes devotees have got their
The formations.
the formation, the chakras.
In some parts of the world, devotees are very, how do we say, what's the word I'm looking for? More group orientated in their behavior, especially in countries that are very culturally homogeneous, which America isn't, in case you haven't noticed. This is the land of do your own thing and work hard to pay for the privilege. So in other countries, like you go to Hungary, they're very ethnically similar countries, and so persons, I think maybe Balaram Baba, did you notice when you went to Hungary?
Yeah.
They think nothing of it, whereas Americans, got to do my own thing. You dance your way, I dance my way. Of course, the ladies here, they can harmonize a bit in their choreography. I think Devaki Priya, you taught them all that. There are no hard and fast rules. Some people like it, some don't. Some think, oh, this is just non-individual, too non-individual. The main thing is chant and dance for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I can't say which is better, which is worse. Prabhupada gave his personal preference, and he said it was his personal preference. Because sometimes in the presence of Srila Prabhupada, you see, bhakti's personal. So in his presence, sometimes devotees would really start to work out. Like they're ready for a disco or something. And Prabhupada would stop the kirtan. and say, I never taught you to dance like that. So devotees hearing that, there was one incident, especially in Chicago. Devotees hearing that really clamped down on their exuberance and their fancy moves. And so one devotee wrote Prabhupada that since we heard you cracking down, the kirtans don't seem to be so ecstatic anymore. So Prabhupada wrote back, because I used to file Prabhupada's letters, his correspondence, both to him and from him. So I got to see both sides. So he responded that if someone is actually feeling ecstasy, that is all right. But I prefer dancing like the Panchatattva, both hands in the air, stepping side by side, stepping one side, stepping the other side. But he said, if someone is actually feeling ecstasy, then so be it. So you have to decide if you're actually feeling ecstasy. But that's his personal preference. Some temples are very strict about that. Prabhupada said. Others take it that that was Prabhupada's personal preference, which we respect. But we want devotees to be exuberant, rejoicing. So now, where was I? I was in Soho, in London, and when the kirtan gets really exuberant, the devotees, they do that roll on the floor, head over heels. You've seen that before? They don't do that in Melbourne, do they? Not so much. That's a typical answer there. Not so much means it happens. Not that they roll on the floor like a log, but they roll head over heels like some kind of break dancing. Is that what you call it? But they're enthusiastic book distributors. Got to have some sense gratification, Anything else? What do they do in Florida? Do any break dancing in kirtan?
Depends on the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Whereas in Hungary, as Balaram Baba has seen, they like the formation dancing, everything choreographed. I don't think Americans can handle it. It's too regimented. That's the word I'm looking for. It's too regimented.
We would like it for the Harinam. We could be nice and organized.
Yes. Sometimes Harinam parties in the old days, I hope it doesn't go on anymore. You'd go out into the public and show your exuberance, and you think that way they'll be attracted. You just do all kinds of wild dancing, and we'll show the materialists how happy we are. Yes.
This might be a stupid question. When Mother Sachi saw Lord Chaitanya with his hair shaved because he was a sannyasi, why does Gauri-Tai Nitya Sundar on the altar have long hair?
Because that's how the acharyas say he should be worshipped.
Lord Chaitanya was dancing with Lord Nityananda before he took sannyas.
Yes. Yes, when they first met, don't you remember? Yeah. And also at the house of Srivas Thakur.
It just made me think of that.
I'm glad you're thinking about Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Anything else? Yes.
Arjun, your extensive travels around the world and many houses of devotees, have you come across householders that have been able to transform their home into Vaikuntha instead of the real home?
You can be the one. But if you can't do that, at least help Gita Nagari transform into Vaikuntha. Yes.
I was wondering, Gurudev, you were speaking about yesterday this point of spending and conserving our energies in Christian offices and our services, and how to find the balance. So, yeah, just wondering, sometimes I've felt that when devotees are conserving their energies, it can be conceived as they're not surrendered, or they should be surrendering more or pushing more. And if they did that, then they wouldn't feel tired. So I'm wondering if there's truth in that. And if you pushed more, that you would.
There's a time for pushing and a time for rejuvenating. We don't want to disparage pushing with great marathon efforts, nor do we want to disparage rejuvenation. Both are parts of bhakti. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, no one can be a yogi who what? Or sleeps too little, eats too much or eats too little. So yesterday we were speaking about the glories of Herculean efforts. But I also gave the other side, how I just asked for some steamed vegetables and chapatis, and that was considered revolutionary. And I explained how I would go at a marathon pace morning till night for 18 days straight, and then take off from Los Angeles to Laguna Beach Temple on the beach and recuperate for 3 days, and then back for another 18-day cycle of nonstop. And as I explained yesterday, back then we were all in our 20s. What would we have done with that energy if we hadn't sacrificed it for Prabhupada? Excuse me, Prabhupada, we need a more balanced life. You know what we'd be doing. Balanced life at the bottom of Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada expertly took all that energy and encouraged it. But now devotees are older, I'm older. I'm so happy I can walk to Mangalarti and attend at least 2 days out of 3. Probably the third day. After the third day, I have to rest. Rest by getting up early, but sitting in a chair and just chanting without going anywhere. But I'm pushing 75. How old are you? A babe. So we don't want to condemn the marathon spirit, and we don't want to condemn the rejuvenation spirit. Okay? You're happy now?
Maharaj, we didn't hear her question.
Oh, you weren't here yesterday?
No.
She asked a question about balancing, that it seems to her that sometimes devotees disparage other devotees who are trying to rejuvenate and recover. Is that a fair presentation of your question? So yesterday I explained how during the marathons in LA, I explained the diet. Did you know what the diet was? We were Standard Temple diet back in 1975. Sabji for lunch, huge chunks of potatoes, carrots, broccoli, saturated with ghee. Not puris, breadsticks. Breadsticks that thick, deep fried in ghee. With sweet rice for dessert. And after that, I'm supposed to read Chaitanya Charitamrita without falling asleep for 14 hours straight. So I asked the BBT director at the time, can I have steamed vegetables and chapatis. He looked, what is this? It was considered a revolutionary request. So they made a special exception for me. I had to go to a householder's apartment and pick up steamed vegetables and chapatis for lunch. Because I wanted to stay awake for my service. So you're satisfied? You'll be able to defend yourself against any critics? What do they tell you? Madhupan Lila, you're taking rest. You should be up all night. Is that what they tell you? Both things have to be there. That, especially if you're in your 20s, that marathon spirit is an unforgettable experience. You have to know how to, we didn't know how to rejuvenate. Some of us did. Like I say, I took 3 days off out of every 3 weeks. Well, what did I do on my 3 weeks off? Did I just sleep? No, I went to another temple and preached. Then I came back for another 18-day stint of book production marathon. After the Ukraine festival, 13,000 devotees, programs from morning till night. Then Ranjan Maharaj and I used to take off somewhere for 3 days, disappear. But we don't make a big thing out of it, you know. We don't make a political issue out of it. We just do the necessary. Of course, the disciples are all wondering, where's Guru Maharaj? Darshan. Guru Maharaj is vanished in thin air. So we don't hype the issue up or make a big political issue out of it. Just rejuvenate. And when everyone sees what you're doing when you are at full capacity, then they don't mind that you're taking some rejuvenation period. Okay? Om Shanti. We have to ask Dasha Prem, is he here? He's on the altar. Is he overworked? Anyone else? Yes.
Gurudev, you mentioned about Prabhupada's books are like Prabhupada is like an expert pianist who is
With an expert pianist with a full, 88 keys? He plays from the top to the bottom.
yeah. He covers. You mentioned how he covers all the topics that are relevant for the beginners and advanced in his books.
He said his books are like, what do you call it? You don't call them apotheks here, you call them what, pharmacies, yes? His books are like a pharmacy containing prescriptions for all types of people. So he said his books contain information, instruction, realizations for all levels of devotees, from the most neophyte to the most advanced.
So when we are going through Prabhupada's books repeatedly and we're reading them, it almost feels like we're reading the new text every time because we forget. So how do we know if we're ever going to get to it?
You'll never master the information. But by reading, gradually Krishna in the heart becomes favorable to you and helps you to remember and repeat what you've read. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. There's teamwork going on between you and the super soul in the heart. When the super soul in the heart sees that you are hearing about Krishna, the super soul in the heart becomes pleased and increases your taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. And speeds up the cleansing of the heart. ladies have no questions? Very good, yes.
In one of the texts, it mentions that Advaitacharya's home was converted into Sri Vaikuntha Puri. I was curious if there's a significance of the wording Sri Vaikuntha Puri. Is there some connection between Vaikuntha and Jagannath Puri?
Why you mentioned Jagannath Puri?
That's the only Puri that I know.
No, Puri just means city or town. Dwarka Puri, Mathura Puri, Vraja Puri. Just, that's all. It's like saying Port Royal Town. Where are you from?
Maryland.
What city?
Ellicott City.
Ellicott City. So Ellicott Puri. Nothing more? You have a question? You understand everything, right? Another one. Anyone else who hasn't? Yes, Parameshwari.
I'm wondering about CC marathon book edition, that marathon that you did. You mentioned that you was working 14 hours straight, and you mentioned that it was transcendental energy from the spiritual world, but I just wonder, how did you do that? Like, being able to sit still and like the brain get fried out, or how do you push on?
I love what I was reading, but I couldn't read just for relishing. I had to read critically. This is before the age of computers. So one of the things I had to do to make sure no text was left out, which sometimes happened, I had to read into the dictaphone the whole text, all the chapters, and then play them back and look at the printed copy and see that nothing was missing. What punishment, huh? So you get the process? I had to first speak into a dictaphone, read the text that was going to be published, and then take the printed copy that's produced, and while listening to the recording that I made of the text, read the text and make sure everything on the recording was there in the text. You get it? So you might say, "Ooh, what a nectarian service!" Just but it required utmost concentration because I had to make sure nothing was left out. Besides looking for grammatical mistakes, and because in the production process, mistakes are introduced. Someone makes a correction, the Sanskrit department makes a correction, and then that's inserted into the text. But then whoever did the insertion botches it, makes a mistake. So the final eyes have to capture that. So I was the final eyes. Okay?
How was you able to continue like that for 14 hours? Like, if you had a headache, how was?
Because I knew in the future a Parameshwari would ask this question. Yes.
When we're doing services that we really don't like, and they're
Give an example.
taking all the trash out on Monday night in the temple. We have a big trash day, and well, now it's better, but there have been times where it's like 3-4 hours by yourself, and I definitely don't think of Krishna.
Why not?
Well, sometimes I do. I'm like, please help me. Please help me. Please don't let anything spill on me.
Please don't let me think what?
Don't let anything spill on me. People often put food in the wrong bags, and yeah, it's really nectarian then. And so when you're in situations like that, how do you keep focused so that you actually do a good service Because even if it sucks, if I do a good service, it's nice. But if my mind gets too annoyed, then I just feel bad during and after.
Always remember, as Prabhupada writes at the end of Bhagavad Gita, how to be conscious of Krishna. Think, I've been appointed to do this task by Krishna. Let me do it to the best of my ability. And may my heart be cleansed, just as I'm taking out the rubbish. May I take out the rubbish from my own heart. Then you'll be peaceful. I'm taking out all this garbage. May I also take out, with the Lord's mercy, all the garbage in my heart. So no one helps you.
This was the past. I mean, after a little bit of complaining, the situation has greatly improved. Now there's like 5, 6 of us. It's quite nice. But I still think of those times, it's like, well, you know, if I had a better consciousness, I could have grown a lot through it. But I was just agitated.
But you did do the service. Okay, that's quite something. You did execute. And now you're reaping the rewards of that execution by thinking, I could have been in better consciousness while doing it. We'll always think there's room for improvement. Bhakti has no ceiling. You'll always think, I could have done this better for Krishna. That's the amazing thing about devotional service. I've often said, and this will be the final point before we close, you can look at what you did last year and think, what kind of consciousness was I in last year? That's just 1 year ago. No fruitive worker, no karmi has that luxury. Generally, you look, last year, yeah, it was all right. Yeah, I made a few mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. What's the big deal? But a devotee, last year, I don't know what I was thinking. Where was I at? Because you're making progress. So we're glad you're here at Gita Nagari for a visit, so that when you go back to Brooklyn, you'll be rejuvenated. See, rejuvenation, see? Are you being politically persecuted for rejuvenating?
What is it? I set in my mind I'm taking that month, and then I put I sent the little request and then disappeared.
But you're going back, right?
Some people doubt it, but I know I am.
Oh, the adventures of the Hare Krishnas. You want to be a Hare Krishna? Okay, you'll have your chance. All right, and last question. Chintamani is here. We've kept the curtains open just for you. You have to speak louder, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of this last response that you gave, the answer of, I've been appointed to this task, let me do it to the best of my ability and have it in the garbage. You know, I'm taking out the garbage, let me take out, for the Lord's mercy, all the garbage from my heart. So what that reminded me of, which I have a question about, so Mother Julan Yatra, Rupert's wonderful wife, has been making available Niranjana Swami's book, Krishna Protected Devotees, and I've been reading that a couple times, and I've been, like hearing your lectures and such. So at the end of the book, when it has letters from the devotees in Ukraine, and they're writing their spiritual master and saying, oh, there's bombs that are falling, there's, my window of my house, blew out, but I'm thinking of Krishna, and I feel so enlivened. So to see that consciousness of people in that experience going deeper in Krishna consciousness, but then sometimes when we're facing things that aren't nearly as challenging, we find so difficult. So can you share from your experience with those devotees, and of course sometimes it takes crises, but what can we learn from those devotees who are facing such difficulties and then deepening their love?
We can learn tolerance, that we should be grateful for whatever favorable circumstances we may currently have for rendering devotional service, and know that favorable circumstances can turn to unfavorable. And so we want to be ready. We want to be all-season devotees, like an all-terrain vehicle. We want to be able to handle winter, spring, summer, and fall, not just the summertime sunshine devotee type. So yes, those devotees in Ukraine and similar situations like that can really tug at your heart. I haven't explained. When I sometimes in Australia and New Zealand, some fortunate Chinese devotees are able to come out of their country. And it's embarrassed. They're an embarrassment. They just go, this is so wonderful. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, this is so great. Oh, thank you, Krishna. Day after day, I can chant and dance without worry. I can chant on the streets. I can chant in the temples. I can be with devotees. This is so wonderful. Every day, it's like, please come on. Are you faking it, or is this for you? But they really feel that way. In other words, they're telling you, you don't know how good you have it. You better take advantage. Weather does change, and favorable circumstances can change into unfavorable. I was just in Atlanta a few days ago, and everybody's got a story about being laid off. Some twice in 1 year. And these are not just low-level employees. These are middle managers, upper-level managers. Everyone's living in fear of being laid off. Because AI, artificial intelligence, has only just begun. So already, the workplaces are trimming their workforce. Sometimes devotees would ask me, what about our career propensity? I said, right now your career propensity is whatever job you can get, because you got to feed your babies. Oh. That's the reality. And here we are at peaceful, calm Gita Nagari. Short-staffed, intense schedules. But there'll come a time when being here will be more appreciated. Whether being on the property or around the property, there'll come a time. No one ever thought the employment market would become like the way it is now. In DC, so much anxiety amongst devotees as all the federal jobs are being cut. Supposedly, if you had a federal job, you're guaranteed lifetime security. Not like that anymore. So that's the buzz amongst the working world. So if you have a chance to render devotional service full time, you may not be like that all your life, but be grateful for what you got. Surapal Prabhu is here. We used to hide him from the secret police in Poland. The early 80s. Tucked him away on a little farmlet. I remember when we first smuggled into Poland a tractor-trailer load of Bhagavad Gita hardcover. Somehow we figured out how to do it. And the devotees would take those Bhagavad Gitas out on the streets and sell them in the middle of the winter. And they were so happy, tears were flowing and freezing from their cheeks. in every devotee's life, generally there'll come a time when you realize, I should have been more appreciative and grateful for what I had. Complaining is the Yuga Dharma right now. Whatever you do, complain. I'm not saying complaints are unjustified. I didn't say that. Not all complaints are unjustified. But some other complaining in general is the way for this age. So I'm seeing throughout the world increased disruption, increased anxiety. What was considered to be progress is now looking more and more shaky every day. So what you all are doing here is very important, each according to your capacity. There's room for everyone. So we pray for Krishna's mercy upon us all, that we can take advantage of whatever opportunity we get. I was thinking, one last point. I got this from Radhanath Maharaj. One last point. Then he goes on for another hour. Right, Lila? One last point. I remember, I think it was when I first came here from Europe a couple of weeks ago, Lila and Devi and Ekavir Prabhu telling me about the austerities they went through. Ekavir, allergic to hay, and yet he had to gather in the hay, and his face is just puffed up. And I'm remembering Jagannath Pandit and Chintamani telling me how they used to live right here, but it didn't look like it looks now. Oh. Oh, in the yoga yes. Didn't look like it looks now, did it? And I remember Brajalila Devi telling me how here you got these urban professionals moved out into the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania to satisfy their guru. They didn't say, this is not our propensity. This is not our career dharma. No, they grabbed the mercy and sacrificed their energies in that way. City folk moved out to Port Royal, Pennsylvania. Urban professionals. Living so simply, trying to be agrarians, trying to care for each other. I've seen persons suffering from hay fever. It's miserable. So I just think of Ekavir Prabhu and his face just exploding, huge. In spite of his extreme allergies, he's gathering in the hay. I remember devotees, godbrothers, it was in 1994, 1995 or something. Did you hear? These devotees from the Institute in Washington, D.C. are moving out to the boondocks? Doesn't make any sense. But they did it. So we're grateful for their sacrifice and trying to follow in their footsteps. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.